Alright guys, welcome back. This is my second video in my series on the strengths of ADHD. Yes, I know there's a ton of things that are much more difficult if you have ADHD, but there are some benefits to it. There are certain skills that we tend to have the ability to do better than the average person. The one I want to focus on here today is the ability to hyperfocus. Hyperfocus means exactly what it sounds like. You are able to concentrate on the task at hand at the exclusion of all of the other distractors around you. I know that doesn't sound like ADD. Normally you think, oh, squirrel, that kind of thing. But when we really are into something, when we really want to focus, we go all in. We block out everything around us, including people talking to us, um, distracting noises, physical motion. We can just really focus in on the one thing we're doing. Even time can sort of just disappear. Suddenly you look up and you realize, I've been working on this for 2.5 hours and it feels like a blink. Yes, sometimes people forget to eat and things like that, but um, in general, it gives us the ability to push through on a big task, especially in crunch time, especially with an approaching deadline. There's certainly skills that you need to be able to function in a constantly changing environment where you have to focus on this and then that and then this and then that and then this. That becomes really a problem for somebody who's in hyperfocus mode. So, yes, it can be a benefit, and we're going to focus on that. However, you do have to recognize that it is easier for an ADHD person to become lost in what they're doing to the exclusion of the rest. Example, I spent 32 years as a classroom teacher. When I started doing a lesson, whatever it was, a lab, a lecture, a whatever, I was so laser focused on the lesson that I became oblivious to other things around me. I could have an administrator walk into my room, walk to the back of the classroom, and be standing there for 15 minutes listening to me. I didn't even see him. Clueless that they came in. I'm like, when'd you get here? It's not always a good thing. I could have kids walk in the classroom late, and if I had already started the lesson, it was literally like they could walk right past me and I didn't even register their presence because I was so laser focused on the incredibly cool thing we were doing that day. Doesn't work if you're really not into it. We'll do an entire separate video on enthusiasm, but it's not always beneficial. But let's just talk about some of the places that it can be. So, yes, any career or skill where you have deadlines, and those deadlines, especially ones that pop up with very little notice. If you have a deadline for an assignment and you know you have something due in a month, that's not hyperfocus material. You're not going to hyperfocus for a month. In fact, you are probably going to wait until about 18 hours before it's due and then just dive into that thing and rip off a 13-page paper in like no time. Will it always be the best? No, not necessarily as good as one that you prior planned properly for. but you can do it. And that's why authors, writers, newspaper writers, uh, copywriters for news, they don't have tons of lead time. They need to bust it out right now. That is a skill set that somebody with ADHD is good at. Something where you have to concentrate on a task so you don't lose your train of thought. Coders, surgeons, um, software developers, architects, those kinds of things. Those benefit from the ability to hyperfocus because you can go from beginning to end and not have a stop in the middle where you forget where you left off and all of a sudden there's a disconnect in there. Another good example of things that somebody with hyperfocus skills is good at is being able to perform in a madhouse. Surgeons, ER nurses, pilots, things where there is a task and it's the important task. And lots of things continue to try to pull you away in the madness, but you don't let them. And you stay locked into what you were doing. I'm going to have a whole list of careers that could benefit from the fact that you can hyperfocus. In my education, it wasn't always a superpower for me. Like I said, it did make me a little bit oblivious to the comings and goings of people and other deadlines that I would overlook for the sake of the one thing I was focusing on. Not always productive. But if you find that you have this skill, don't pass it off as being it. You might find that it is a superpower that unlocks a unique ability for you to perform in situations where others will fold. Till next time, guys, take it easy.